So like all that stuff is real and it's going on, but I'm also like, oh, what's the question under this?
Yes.
Because this is for sure an answer to a prayer. This is for sure the opportunity I've been asking for. This is for sure the moment I've created. So how can I step into that?
Hello and welcome to the Success Sessions. My name is Jessie Johnson and I am so super thrilled and ecstatic to be welcoming the incredible, truly awe-inspiring Angela Lauria to
You only like me because I'm a fellow short hair sister. So
I do feel that resonance actually. It's not everyone can pull it off.
But it's exciting to be here and this is super fun. So we share a lot of clients.
Yes, which is actually
people seem to find each other. They find us.
This is how I actually met Angela on like the interwebs over and over and over again, and in conversation. Like I don't think anyone has brought up your name more times in conversation. It was like everyone was talking to me about you, but I'd never seen you or met you in person, and then was kind of knocked off my seat with how delightful, authentic, genuine, inspiring, and resonant I felt with you. Like, I don't know why there was something, I was just like, this girl is really like, maybe I was putting you on a pedestal or playing some competition game in my own mind. When I actually met you, you just cut through all that bullshit and I fell in love with you out the gate.
Oh, nice. Also, we clearly have some mission here together on the planet. Yes. We're calling in the same peace warriors and working our own magic in different, but not totally different ways. So
yes,
that's always fun to find other people on the path.
Yeah. And I think that, Angela, you're one of the people, this is my extended introduction of you. You're one of the people that I see as extraordinarily integrated when it comes to having a very concretely, like financially viable business. The last time that we spoke, your business was rocking and rolling around $20 million a year. Like it's a very big business and you're such a badass and your heart is leading everything. And so I see you as a spiritual teacher. You work and guide other people who are spiritually led. And I'm just a super fan of what you're doing. And I think it's really important for people to hear you speak about your relationship to spirit and business, success and money in one conversation. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I do want to say, like, it's the both and. Like, I am spirit led by everything. I am super grounded in my connection to source as I make decisions. And I have Google spreadsheets with KPIs and I can tell you all my numbers and what my cost per lead is basically up to the minute. And it doesn't have to be either or. I talk to so many spiritual people who are so afraid to make sales, so afraid to make money. And I think that's about ego. Like, do you think Google spreadsheets exist outside of God? God's like, everything can be spiritual except keeping track of your wallet. What? That doesn't make any sense. So it's definitely both and. I am heart-led, but you know, I'm also like a badass businesswoman separately. I can have this spiritual conversation we'll have just as well as I can go to an EO meeting and talk about, you know, whatever my profit and loss statements.
It's very, very inspiring, very, very important. Both the work that you do with authors and also that example that you lead with. I think it's really, it's one of your biggest contributions, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Just living. When you were little, how did you define success and how were you wrong?
So I thought about that word a lot and I defined it as increasing levels of responsibility, commensurate with increasing levels of recognition. And I started this in kindergarten when I was able to secure the role of Mary in the nativity play. Wanted to be Jesus. They wouldn't cast me in that one. It wasn't really a speaking role anyway. But I did not just want to be in the school play. I wanted the lead. And in third grade, when we invented our own town and civics class, Angeltown, California, I, of course, ran for and won the spot as mayor of my town in third grade. And in fifth grade, when everyone else was in fifth grade, I created this role, which was student aid to the special needs class. And instead of attending class, I worked. I don't know why this was allowed. Then when I got to sixth grade, instead of attending class with all my other students, I sat in the hallway and did eighth grade work. And of course, had the lead in the play. And I was president of all the things I can't remember. And I was most likely to succeed. I was not valedictorian. I was like 11th in my class. But National Honor Society, class president, most likely to succeed, president of the yearbook club, president of the theater club, president of the ski club, president of the environmental club, president of Students Against Drunk Drivers, like increasing levels of responsibility, commensurate with recognition. And that worked for a really fucking long time.
I can imagine.
And then it stopped working. So raises and promotions were really great for me. So I got the best job. My first job out of college was $80,000 a year. Like, I got the best job. I got all the raises, all the promotions, all the things. And then when I was in my mid 30s, I'll say 35, and I was chief marketing officer for a tech company. And I was in a meeting with all the senior management, and I was described as the gray hair and the oldest person in the company, because I worked with all these high-tech startups. So I was always the smartest young person. Like, I was always, but everybody was in their 20s. These were all software developers, and they were all in their 20s. And I was the gray hair that was supposed to present to the investors, so that we could get the money, because I was like the grown-up in the room. And I had this moment where I was like, holy shit, am I gonna do this at 65? No one's 65. I'm already old. What is my next job? And I couldn't figure out what the next rung on the ladder. Like, I just kept finding any ladder I could and climbing it from day one. And it felt really good. And then I couldn't find any more ladders. I didn't know where to go. And I went to a life coach. And one of the first questions my life coach asked me is, what's your definition of success? And when I gave her that definition, she said, it's actually Susan Hyatt. I don't know if you know her. And she looked at me and she said, interesting. And I was like, what's interesting? It's the correct definition. Like, let me say it again slower. Maybe you didn't hear me. And she's like, no, I just think that's good to think about. And I'm like, why would it be good to think? It's a word. You look it up in the dictionary. Why am I thinking about it? Like, I didn't understand. And it just bothered me for years. And somewhere in there, right before I turned 40, I started my company, the Author Incubator. And that whole company, that business plan was downloaded to me by Source in about 15 seconds, maybe less. I put my foot on the brake. I was coming up to a stop sign, and I put my foot on the brake pedal. And by the time my car hit the stop sign, and I not hit the stop sign, but got to the stop sign and stopped, my whole business plan was downloaded to me by Source. Like, just in that, it was like I pressed the brake and and I sat at that stop sign, and people were like beeping at me, because I was like, I was like, wow, that is my whole business plan. And it was somewhere around that moment, before I got that download, but around turning 40 and doing some of the deep thinking I was doing, where I realized the only thing that mattered to me in terms of success was living in integrity and connection to Source. And it comes down, I grew up Catholic, and the prayer of St. Francis, make me an instrument of peace. I say that prayer every morning. I say it all day long. It's running in my head. And that prayer is, if I am doing God's work, if I am able to be clean and clear and to serve as a channel for God to work through me, then I'm successful. And that's the whole game for me. And I really do think the only thing, like the only thing that is my job, the only thing I do is keep myself pure. Like how that sounded a little Aryan Nation there, but I fuck up all the time and I atone, and I get scared all the time and I come back to source, and I lose myself and I come back. And like, to me, that's what Marianne Williamson talks about in A Return to Love. I don't get it right at all. Like every 15 minutes, just before we started this interview, I was like, blah, like way, like in some sort of fear world, whatever. And so that's why I'm like all crystalled up right now. Cause I'm like, how do I reground? How do I stay connected to source? And it's always about coming back. And sometimes I don't need to, hold a garnet. And sometimes I'm like, oh wait, this is actually the only thing that really matters. Like none of this other bullshit is real. Let it go. Come back to love, come back to love, come back to love. And my success is based on my reaction time now. Like, I don't think Eckhart Tolle or Byron Katie, I don't think they have to even come back. Maybe they do, I don't know. But it feels like they don't have to come back to it. Like for me, my recovery time is slower, but it's faster than it was 10 years ago. And I hope it's faster 10 years from now.
Yes. Okay, this is great. I feel like I just want to you're doing a beautiful job illustrating this, and I just want to emphasize this last piece that you're speaking about, which is that it's not about the perfection of this state, although that's also happening, but the frequency with which you come back here and the shortening of the time that you spend away from here.
Yep.
And I resonate with that a lot. I think
other people have a different path. I think some people are able to stay there. They're clients I've worked with. But for me, I am very human. I got all the shitty things that come with being human in spades. So being able to come back to center, source, the truth of who I am, like being able to do that, it's never been particularly easy for me. I've gotten better at it because I'm committed to it, not because it's like some natural gift.
Well, so, okay, I have a radical question. I've never asked anyone this before, but I'm curious for you, if you actually were living in a cave, meditating all day, every day, would that be more conducive to you perfecting your...
Well, I feel like if I were living in a cave, I would be writing a one-woman show and performing it for like the ants and chipmunks. Like, I just feel like I'm here to create. God expresses through creation. And sometimes, like, what did my kids just made a fort. Like, that's God. I work with one of my authors, Megan Jo Wilson, does these rock star camps where people come and they sing with a band. And like, that's God. Like, I can see God working through them. It doesn't have to be Picasso or whatever. It doesn't have, I was trying to think of a female artist as an example, and I literally could not think of one. It doesn't have to be Judy Chicago. Got one.
Brilliant one. That was a very nice one.
But yeah, it doesn't have to be some sort of masterpiece that hangs in the Louvre. When we create anything, when you bake a cake, I think that is the reason we're on the planet, because I think our existence, I think we're all a piece of God, and God is experiencing life through us, particularly when we create anything at any time. And business is a kick-ass thing to create.
Yes. So this is what I want to hear you speak more about this. Do you, in terms of the relationship between this new definition of success Does your business support that? Does it challenge that? Like how does your new definition of success show up in your business?
So success for me right now is about alignment. I kind of hate the word. I think it's overdone. To me, integrity is a better word, but I did all the spiritual work. I got all these spiritual downloads. I got a sense of who I am and why I'm on the planet. A lot of it I even wrote down and shared with other people. And then shit happens, like whatever, an employee quits. And all of those things I said don't seem to apply to this particular situation. Whatever the things are. So in those moments where I'm like challenged, which are like many or most of them, all of them, business creates them, right? People are just the person you worked the hardest for is gonna ask for a refund. Like the ads that you told your ad guy to turn off have been running and you racked up a $3,000 bill, even though you have it in writing, turn off the ads. And the ad guy isn't paying for them. Like stuff, that one has never happened to me, but it could. Like stuff happens, right? And I feel like the universe is always asking me, so like even now, like all those things you said, only love is real, the things I wrote down, the things I read, all those things you said, do you mean it even now when you have to pay $3,000 for ads you didn't use? Like even now? And so it's the best spiritual practice I can think of. Like there are other things you could do, although not many, because life is set up to trigger you. But I could probably find a less triggering job. Like let's say sitting in a cave praying, like all my needs are met. All you have to do is sit in the cave. There's no other people, no one to trigger you. I will create those triggers.
Yes.
And I think I create those triggers to be to have the opportunity to be in integrity, to experience my connection to source. And in that moment when somebody has betrayed me and I choose to love them, that's when I feel closest to God. That's when I feel most successful.
And you don't get to do that. It sounds to me like the business makes it uniquely easy to have those kinds of experiences that challenge you to claim a new level of consciousness or love.
Yeah, I mean, as we're recording this, it's the middle of the lockdown part of the coronavirus. I'm sure there'll be many stages, but we're sort of near the beginning of this lockdown phase. And the questions are so beautiful. And there's like fear, there's changes in financial circumstances, there's changes. We have an events company, can't run events. I've got $100,000 in rent that I pay every month for buildings nobody can legally go into. That's interesting. Okay. And it's super easy to panic or to my favorite is to try and take over the planning on God's behalf. Cause I am a really good project manager and I like to offer my services. They're usually not accepted, but I still keep making an effort. So like all that stuff is real and it's going on, but I'm also like, oh, what's the question under this?
Yes.
Because this is for sure an answer to a prayer. This is for sure the opportunity I've been asking for. This is for sure the moment I've created. So how can I step into that? And when I do that, when I have those moments where I do that, I'm like, that's what success feels like now. Who cares? We had, we've had 3 $1.5 million months. I think we actually did 15 million last year, but we were on target for 20 this year. We are not going to do 1.5 million this month for sure. And like, that's cool. What if success wasn't just about your revenue? What if success, and it is partly about your revenue, because like I said, I'm a both and girl. We've got bills and expenses, and part of what allows me to be a steward for millions of dollars of the universe's money is that I do create safe spaces for that money to go. So, you know, it's not an either or, but I definitely feel like in this moment, I'm being called to a deeper level of success.
Hmm. Did you have a similar, or did you have any glitch around receiving that amount of money as you were building the business?
I had one glitch early on. Okay, so I should say this. I'm very lucky. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I always knew I would make lots of money doing what I loved. I had different definitions for lots of money. So when my dad's business was at its height, he had 16 employees, 5 million in revenue, and an 8,000 square foot space. So to give you a sense, we have 32,000 square feet in space. We have 40 employees and about 20 million in revenue. So, so what I thought of as lots of money, I didn't grow up like, you know, my dad wasn't an oil magnate. There's no inheritance. I mean, I don't know, he'll leave me his house or something, but I don't have a trust fund. I've always worked for a living. Neither of my parents went to college. My oldest sister was the first person in the family to go to college. My grandparents have an 8th grade education. But I always knew that I would have a job doing what I loved, that I was clear about, and that I would make plenty of money. As I grew up, I pretty quickly got to 100,000. That was really easy to see. Bought my first house at 27 years old. That was easy to see. And then I reached that chief marketing officer level and my salary was about 200,000. And I got stuck right around there. And I was stuck at the 200K level for most of my 30s, maybe 33 to 41 or 42. I was stuck at that 200K a year mark, which was like fine. I had a beautiful house. I went on vacation once a year. I bought whatever I wanted to buy. I could send my kid to ballet class or whatever I wanted to do. But there were still a lot of things that I couldn't do. I certainly didn't fly private or buy $200,000 giant crystals or, you know, some of the things that I've been able to do in the last few years.
Yeah.
And that breakthrough moment, it was funny. It was I hired a coach. I spent more money on that coach than I made in the whole year before. And in the moment I hired him, I saw myself as a person who hired coaches that were that expensive. Like I saw myself as a person who had expenses like that. It was as much or more than an employee would cost, but I felt like I couldn't afford an employee. But suddenly I could afford employees. And shortly thereafter, I did get my first employee. Like it changed how I saw myself. And I went from being an employee, having kind of an employee or even a freelancer mindset, where making $200,000 a year or whatever, $15,000 a month seemed reasonable to me, to becoming a CEO where $1.5 million a month seemed reasonable to me. Because as a CEO, I've got expenses. I got a building, I got my employee costs are $300,000 a month. My building costs are $100,000 a month. Like my advertising costs are $150,000 a month. Like what? I can't I can't pay 500, whatever. I think $730,000 a month are our expenses. So raising my expenses was the single best way for me to break through and make more money.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I relate to everything that you're talking about. I think I don't think it's the only way, but I think it's a very effective and consistent, reliable way that when people spend differently, their relationship to money changes. And so then it opens up all kinds of possibility and frankly demand to bring in money differently.
Yep.
That seems just much faster than if you're like, I'm going to bring in money differently first and then I'll spend differently. it's almost like it creates this push-pull that will actually slow you down.
Yep.
So
I see my clients do it all the time. It's super painful to me as a coach, and will only get more painful, I'm sure now. But they come in, they have a job, they're making, let's just say, $80,000 a year. They have a dream to build a business, to make a bigger impact, to change the world. And they look me in the eye and say, I'll go all in on that dream. They pay me tens of thousands of dollars and say, I'll go all in that dream. But they won't go all in enough to quit their job. How? I can't do the math. You are telling the universe that you believe you need this job for safety and then saying, please give me a shot. How? It can't. You're saying I don't want the shot and I want the shot at the same time. So it is scary. It's totally scary, but I love that Damon John book, The Power of Broke. Because you have to give, well, you don't have to. For me, I found I had to give myself no other option but to be successful. So
that's powerful.
That to me was the breakthrough moment.
Yeah. When you think about this conversation that we've been having around changing the way you bring in money, how do you see the spiritual conversation there? How does this work that you've done around money and bringing in money in a different way and in a much larger way, in a moment to moment kind of way, connect to this love conversation that we were having?
Well, Mother Teresa made $100 million. She wrote 30 books and she generated $100 million just from book sales. Not to mention all the donations and stuff like that. And all of her book sales money, or a lot of it, was donated. But when I think of that, I know she wasn't doing it for the private plane or the fancy crystals or the Fendi boots. Like, I know she wasn't. So what made her capable of doing it? Was she smart? Like, yeah, I think she was smart. Was she good at business? Like, yeah, probably good at business. But why her? There have to be people who are better at business than her that didn't get to 100 million. So why did she get to 100 million? To me, the answer to that is her contract with God. She was showing up partly to do the service work in India. I think that was a piece of it, but more to show us all what was possible without fancy clothes, without connections on Wall Street, without a reality TV show. Like, seriously, if that lady can do it, what is my issue? Right? And I think that was it. And the reason she could do it was she was in partnership with God on that mission. Like, it clearly wasn't for her. And I don't think that means at all that we need to give up our earthly things. I think they're 100% irrelevant to God. Like, I don't think that's the point. I think the point is, are you in integrity? And are you doing what you are here to do? Are you fully expressed? The more fully expressed you can be, the better. Are you doing on any level what other people think you should be doing, or what you know in your heart you should be doing? Are you doing the dishes because you think it's the right thing to do? Or are you doing the dishes because it's in total alignment with that moment? And it's from like your nail polish on up. Every single thing. It's not the big things. A lot of people try and put the big things like their job or their relationship in a bucket, but then the other things like how they treat waitresses doesn't count, or like these things that don't. You're always spying on your own self-talk. You can't hide who you are from you. And so I think money just follows, in my experience, from integrity. I'll give you one of my money-making tips. This is how I closed most of the sales I closed my first year in business. The minute I got a parking ticket or a red light camera ticket, I paid it. The minute I had an email in my inbox, I got it out of my inbox. If you feel like you have sales offers out there and people haven't called you back, go do a moral inventory. What offers are out there for you that you haven't replied to? If you have invoices out there and people aren't paying them, check the stack of mail on your desk and make some payments. Because I promise you, it's all just a mirror. The only ones in the room.
So I am going to ask you about this quarantine in light of that. How do you wrap your mind around that in the context of what you were just sharing, and that mindset of looking at everything as happening for you, everything is happening as a reflection? How are you translating the messages of COVID-19?
So number one, everything that's happening now, I saw happening slowly over the next 20 years as part of a 50-year progression that started in 1987 with the harmonic convergence. And I think we have jumped timelines or considerably sped up the timeline. And I'm so proud of us because I think those of us in the personal development space did enough vision boards and did enough law of attraction work that we were able to create this moment faster. We all did the work to say, I'm ready. I'm ready for a new earth. I'm going to show up in a different way. The old structures that are based on the patriarchy and white supremacy, they are not working. I want a new way of doing things, and I'm going to make the change with me. I'm going to be the change I want to see. And we just reached critical mass, and it had to happen. It was like a fault line got tripped. There was one person who did the very last vision board that tripped us over into this virus. And that's not to make light of the fact people are going to die, and horribly, and bad things are happening right now around the world. But I do think in terms of the evolution of consciousness, I think God is less concerned about, Jimmy dying or 100,000 people dying than the evolution of consciousness in general. And that's what we've created. I thought our kids were going to have to do it. I'm really excited. I'm 47 right now, and I'm really excited I get to live a lot of my adult life in the after, which I thought would happen when I was 80 or 90 and be able to reflect, or maybe 70 or 80, but be able to reflect to my child what's happening. Like, we planted these seeds and now they're happening. So I know there's a lot of scary stuff we have to get through, and everything's going to fucking break. And it's, wow, okay, how do I stay grounded through this? But I know all of our questions about how we're going to save the planet, just from an environmental perspective, are going to be answered, are being answered, and are going to be answered.
Yes.
And what if that means we take a global holiday, 1 week or 2 weeks a year, where we just shut everything down as a whole world together? We're like, oh yeah, first 2 weeks of August, that's when we do our Heal the World weeks. So everyone just quarantines those weeks. That's when we plant our gardens, whatever. Yeah. We know the answer to global warming, you guys. And by the way, everybody was right. All the conservatives, Republicans in the US, but all the conservatives who were like, you people are crazy. This is part of the natural order of the planet and it's going to fix itself. They were right. Who thought it'd be a virus, but okay. And then all the liberals who are like, everybody bike from now on and stop using cars or planes. They were actually fucking right. It's just, we didn't have to do it forever. We probably need to do it for 3 months. The earth will tell us. We will come out of lockdown when the earth is ready for us to come out of lockdown. She is self-repairing, and she came up with what she needed for us to do what we needed to do. And everyone was right. I love that when I look at education. Like there's so many people that have been insisting school had to be done from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. in buildings that are falling down and in disrepair, that don't even have toilets in a lot of cases. And why? Because kids have to get meals. Otherwise, kids will starve. Like, okay, let's keep sending them to bad places with bad teachers, because there just aren't that many great teachers. They're good teachers. What if all of our kids could have the best fucking teachers? Guess what? They can. We have the internets. We've had them for a while.
Yes.
But how do we get everyone to give up their jobs? Oh, I know. Let's have a massive stimulus bill where everyone gets laid off, and we realize money is all made up. It was made up anyway. Whoever's worried about the debt, y'all, don't worry. They're just numbers on a computer. We're making this shit up. We're just agreeing to a new cap table. It's totally fine. Like, it's everything we needed to fix healthcare. It's everything we needed to fix education. It's everything we needed to fix the environment. All the things we've been saying about personal development, managing your anxiety, feeling your feelings, becoming an emotional adult. Everyone's going to either learn to do that real quick or hire someone who can help them.
Yes.
Like, this is the Olympics for personal development. I've trained my whole life for this moment. And it is scary as shit, but watching the world we've always wanted come into form in front of our eyes is one of the greatest blessings of my life.
Thank you so much for all of that. I love hearing you speak about this. I love hearing you speak about everything. You have such a powerful transmission, and so much in that transmission is like inspiration and love and encouragement, and it almost doesn't matter what you're saying, what you're teaching, that comes through. And so it's always an honor to be in your presence and hear you speak the wisdom that you have. I love knowing you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And I hope people are inspired to create the success that lights them up and not their mom or their English teacher or their husband or whoever else. Because it's all, I mean, everyone says this, but you have to do the work to really figure out the answer to that question for you. For me, from the time Susan Hyatt asked me that question until I answered it was almost a 10-year journey. It was 7 years to answer the question, what does success mean for you? So hopefully maybe I sped up the timeline a month or two for somebody listening to this.
Yes, yes. So if people want to find you the authorincubator.com is like the home of your business forever and always. Is that also a place where people can feel your energy like this?
There is a blog there. So if you go to the authorincubator.com/blog, what I do is I take my real presence is on my personal Facebook page, which I've had 5,000 friends for 5 years and it's a pain in the neck, but it's literally just my journal and I share it with the world. But my most popular posts go on to the blog. And of course, you can go to Facebook and find me there and follow me. You can't friend me right now, but you're welcome to follow me. And then my best blogs are over at the blog on the authorincubator.com.
Beautiful. Thank you. Because I think that everyone should be paying attention to you and what you're saying right now, whether they're ready to think about writing their first book or seventh book or not. And also probably if they're interested in listening to you, they're ready to write a book. So
also, you know what's fun is somebody made a movie about me. And so if you go to Amazon and you look up The Weight of Success, it's actually that journey, these 10 years I've been talking about. I met Susan Hyatt when I was working with Brooke Castillo, who is my weight loss coach. And Susan was training with her. And that movie kind of documents my 10-year journey on this spiritual path.
So beautiful. I can't wait to share that more widely.
Nice.
Angela, thank you so much. Thank you all for witnessing. Comment, ask questions, follow up, pay attention to everything Angela's saying.
Thanks, Jessie.